On January 20th, 2025, Donald J. Trump returned to the Oval Office, marking a tumultuous period in American history. His inauguration speech set the stage for a presidency poised to overturn many of the policies enacted during his predecessor's term. Within hours, Trump unleashed a barrage of executive orders, signaling a radical shift in the nation's direction. These orders sparked immediate controversy and ignited a firestorm of debate. Critics argue these actions represent an autocratic overreach of executive power. The nation, already deeply divided, found itself further polarized by Trump's actions. Supporters hailed him as a fearless leader, while opponents expressed deep concern and outrage. Trump's second presidency promised a tumultuous period of political and social upheaval. One of Trump's most contentious promises was to build a wall along the US-Mexico border. He wasted no time in reviving this controversial project. His executive order called for increased military presence, escalating tensions. Trump implemented hardline immigration policies, including the Remain in Mexico policy. Asylum seekers awaited court hearings in dangerous border towns. He reduced refugee admissions, effectively shutting the door on many. These actions drew condemnation from human rights groups. They pointed to the dire conditions faced by asylum seekers. The Trump administration defended its actions as necessary for national security. The impact extended far beyond the border. Families were separated, with children detained apart from their parents. The asylum process ground to a virtual standstill. The Trump administration's actions sent a chilling message to the world. Trump's disdain for environmental regulations and his unwavering support for the fossil fuel industry were well documented throughout his political career. As president, he wasted no time in enacting policies that reflected this stance, rolling back years of environmental progress and alarming scientists and environmental activists worldwide. One of his most significant actions was withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement, a global pact aimed at combating climate change. This move, widely condemned by the international community, signaled Trump's rejection of the scientific consensus on climate change and his prioritization of economic interests over environmental concerns. Domestically, Trump unleashed a wave of deregulation, targeting environmental protections put in place by previous administrations. He eased restrictions on oil and gas drilling, opening up vast swaths of public lands and waters to exploration and extraction. He weakened regulations on air and water pollution, putting communities at risk of exposure to harmful toxins. And he rolled back fuel efficiency standards for vehicles, undermining efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. These actions were met with swift legal challenges from environmental groups and state attorneys general, who argued that the Trump administration was violating federal laws and jeopardizing public health and the environment. The rollback of environmental regulations was seen by many as a blatant giveaway to the fossil fuel industry, further enriching corporations at the expense of the planet and future generations. Trump's presidency was marked by a deeply divisive approach to social issues, particularly those related to race, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Through a series of executive orders, he systematically targeted policies aimed at promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, reversing progress made towards a more just and equitable society. One of his most controversial actions was banning transgender individuals from serving in the military. This discriminatory policy, widely condemned by human rights groups and LGBTQ+ advocates, reversed an Obama-era policy that allowed transgender individuals to serve openly and receive medically necessary care. Trump's attack on DEI extended beyond the military. He issued an executive order prohibiting federal agencies from conducting diversity training that addressed concepts such as systemic racism and white privilege. This move was seen by critics as an attempt to stifle conversations about race and inequality, further marginalizing already marginalized communities. Furthermore, Trump rolled back Obama-era guidance that protected transgender students from discrimination in schools. This action left transgender students vulnerable to bullying, harassment, and denial of access to facilities consistent with their gender identity. These actions sent a clear message that the Trump administration was not committed to protecting the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals and was actively working to undermine their hard-won progress. Section 5. The federal workforce. Loyalty over expertise. Trump's approach to the federal workforce was characterized by a deep distrust of career civil servants. and a desire to install loyalists in key positions. He viewed the federal government as bloated and inefficient, filled with deep state actors working to undermine his agenda. To exert greater control over the federal workforce, Trump implemented a hiring freeze, halting the hiring of new federal employees. This move, while touted as a cost-saving measure, had a chilling effect on government agencies, leaving them understaffed and struggling to fulfill their missions. Trump further consolidated his power by reinstating the Schedule F executive order, a controversial policy that allowed him to reclassify certain federal employees, making it easier to fire them without cause. This move was seen by critics as an attempt to politicize the civil service and install loyalists in positions that required impartiality and expertise. These actions had a demoralizing effect on the federal workforce, leading to an exodus of experienced civil servants and a decline in morale. The Trump administration's efforts to undermine the integrity and independence of the federal workforce raised concerns about the future of American democracy and the rule of law. Section 6. Justice denied pardons for the January 6th insurrectionists. Trump pardoned many involved in the January 6th insurrection, shocking the nation. This act was condemned by legal experts and lawmakers as an affront to democracy. Pardoned individuals were convicted of serious crimes including assault and conspiracy. Trump's pardons sent a dangerous message, tolerating violence and undermining democracy. Critics saw this as a blatant attempt to reward supporters and erode trust in the justice system. The pardons inflamed political tensions and threatened American democracy. This act cast a long shadow over Trump's legacy and raised questions about justice in America. Section 7. A global retreat, health and international relations. Trump's America First foreign policy marked a significant departure from the multilateral approach of previous administrations. He withdrew the United States from international agreements, alienated allies, and embraced authoritarian leaders, raising concerns about America's standing in the world. In the realm of global health, Trump withdrew the United States from the World Health Organization, accusing the organization of being beholden to China and mismanaging the COVID-19 pandemic. This move, widely condemned by public health experts, left the United States isolated at a time when global cooperation was paramount in addressing the pandemic. Trump's approach to international relations was characterized by a transactional mindset, prioritizing American interests above all else. He engaged in trade wars with China and other countries, imposed tariffs, and withdrew from trade agreements. These actions disrupted global markets, strained relationships with allies, and undermined the rules-based international order. Trump's foreign policy legacy was one of isolationism, distrust, and instability. He left the United States more isolated on the world stage, with its alliances frayed and its reputation tarnished. His actions raised questions about America's ability to lead in the 21st century and the future of the liberal international order. Section 8. Legal battles and public outcry. Trump's executive orders faced immediate legal challenges from a coalition of states, advocacy groups, and individuals who argued that these actions were unconstitutional, exceeded his executive authority, and violated civil liberties. The courts became a battleground for these challenges, with judges issuing rulings that both upheld and blocked aspects of Trump's agenda. The legal battles surrounding Trump's executive orders highlighted the tension between executive power and the rule of law. Critics argued that Trump was abusing his executive authority, circumventing Congress and acting unilaterally to enact his agenda. Supporters countered that he was exercising his constitutional right to set policy and fulfill his campaign promises. The public outcry against Trump's policies was swift and sustained. Protests erupted across the country, with millions of Americans taking to the streets to voice their opposition to his agenda. Social media platforms became hotbeds of debate and activism, amplifying voices of dissent and organizing resistance movements. The legal challenges and public outcry surrounding Trump's executive orders demonstrated the vital role of checks and balances in American democracy. They highlighted the importance of an independent judiciary, a free press, and an engaged citizenry in holding those in power accountable. Section 9. A legacy of discord, Trump's impact on America. Trump's presidency left an indelible mark on American society, deepening political divisions, exacerbating social tensions, and eroding trust in democratic institutions. His policies and rhetoric often appealed to fear, resentment, and prejudice, further fragmenting an already polarized nation. Trump's legacy is one of division and discord. He governed as a divider, not a uniter, stoking cultural wars and pitting Americans against each other. His presidency revealed the fragility of American democracy and the ease with which its norms and institutions could be undermined. Trump's impact on American politics and society will be debated for years to come. His presidency raised fundamental questions about the nature of truth, the role of government, and the future of American democracy. The long-term consequences of his actions remain to be seen, but his legacy will undoubtedly shape the political landscape for generations to come. Section 10. What's your take? Join the conversation. Trump's executive orders ignited a national conversation about the limits of executive power, the importance of democratic norms, and the future of American society. This conversation is far from over, and it's one that we all must engage in. What are your thoughts on Trump's use of executive orders? Do you believe they were a legitimate exercise of his presidential authority, or an overreach of power? How did his policies impact your life and the lives of those around you? Share your perspectives, insights, and experiences in the comments below. Let's continue this important conversation and work together to build a more just, equitable, and democratic future for all. Feel free to comment other topics or questions you would like to see on my channel in the future, and to also add your YouTube links in the comment section as well. Stay curious.